You shouldn't be sleeping out here, sir. You'll freeze before sunrise." The man didn't answer. He was half-slumped against the open door of a black luxury sedan, rain sliding off his $1,000 suit, his head bowed like he'd forgotten how to stand. Angela Brooks gripped her umbrella tighter. Midnight wind whipped through the empty street. No taxis, no lights, just a reflection in a puddle and the faint, ugly sound of a grown man choking back vomit. Then she saw the face, and her stomach dropped. Charles Devon, billionaire, CEO, the man whose name was printed on every paycheck that barely covered her rent. Her first thought was simple: keep walking. Her second thought was louder: let him freeze. But then she noticed the way he shivered, not like a rich man drunk on champagne, but like a broken one who'd forgotten how to survive. Before she could talk herself out of it, movement caught her eye. Across the street, two men in hooded jackets had stepped out from the shadows. Their eyes locked on the open car door, then on her. One nudged the other, and they started crossing, slow, deliberate, like wolves who'd found their dinner. Angela's pulse spiked. She didn't know what scared her more, the men or the idea of what they might do if she left him there. "Damn it," she muttered, tossing her umbrella aside. Rain splashed up her legs as she ran toward Charles. "Come on, Mr. Devon," she hissed, grabbing him under the arms. "Let's get you off the menu before the streets eat you alive." He groaned, dead weight, but moved just enough to help her drag him toward the curb. Headlights cut through the mist. A cab. She waved frantically, throwing herself in front of it. "Get him out of here," she told the driver, shoving the billionaire into the back seat. When the driver asked for payment, she pressed a crumpled 20 into his hand. "Don't charge him. Just drive." Charles mumbled something as she shut the door. "You, good people," he slurred. "Don't forget that." The cab pulled away, tail lights glowing red in the rain. Angela stood there, soaked, shaking, staring after it, until the street went quiet again. To anyone else, it was nothing. Just a cleaning lady saving a stranger too rich to remember her name. But that night, that one small, stupid act of kindness was about to start a chain reaction that would turn her entire world upside down. 1 month later, he came back. If you love stories where ordinary people make extraordinary choices, where kindness sparks consequences no one saw coming, then like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories that prove one small act can change everything. The rain had stopped weeks ago, but the city still carried the smell of it: metal, dust, and damp pavement. Angela Brooks had gone back to her usual nights at Crestwood Plaza. Empty offices. The hum of fluorescent lights. A radio that crackled between old soul songs and static. Nothing had changed, except maybe her. Sometimes, when she polished the marble in the executive lobby, she'd catch herself staring at the reflection of the floor, remembering the way Charles Devon's body had slumped against the car door. She'd told no one. Not even her friend in maintenance who'd driven her home that night. To everyone else, she was just the quiet cleaner who worked hard and kept her head down. But sometimes, between one floor and the next, she wondered if he even remembered her name. It was a Thursday. 9:37 p.m. Angela was dusting the reception desk when the elevator doors opened behind her with a clean metallic chime. She didn't turn around at first. People didn't come to the 32nd floor at night. Not unless something was wrong. "Ms. Brooks." She froze. The voice was deep, deliberate, the kind that carried authority even in a whisper. She turned. Charles Devon stood there, sober, precise, the same man she had dragged out of the rain a month earlier. But this time, no rumpled suit, no whiskey glaze. Just sharp gray eyes and a quiet, measured expression. "Mr. Devon," she stammered, instinctively setting the cleaning rag aside. "I was hoping to find you," he said. "You left before I could thank you properly." Angela blinked, unsure how to stand. "Sir, it wasn't anything. You'd had a bad night. Happens to the best of us." His lips curved slightly. Not amusement, exactly, but respect. Not everyone would have stopped. Especially not in this city. Especially not for me. He gestured to the chairs by the window. Do you have 5 minutes? She hesitated. Technically, I'm still on the clock. I'll pay for your time, he said softly. They sat across from each other in the corner lounge, the city stretching beneath them, a glittering ocean of light. Angela had never been this high up in the building before. From here, the traffic below looked almost peaceful. Charles set a folder on the table between them. His hands were steady now, clean lines where there had once been trembling. I did some looking into what happened that night, he said. You paid for my cab. You even gave the driver extra to make sure I got home. You didn't leave your name. I had to ask security to match your shift log. Angela frowned. You didn't have to do that. I did, he replied. Because I realized something, Ms. Brooks, you were the only person on that street who acted like I was worth saving. She looked down at her hands. Everyone's worth saving, sir. Some just forget they need it. He smiled faintly. Then maybe it's time I start remembering. He slid the folder toward her. Inside is a promotion offer. Director of Facilities. Full benefits. Office upstairs. Angela stared at the folder like it was a trick. Sir, I'm a janitor. No, he said calmly. You're the reason this building runs. You see things the rest of us overlook. Angela's throat tightened. Why me? Because I believe people should be rewarded for integrity, not connections. He leaned back slightly. This company needs eyes like yours, Ms. Brooks. Ones that see the cracks before the whole thing collapses. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of rain, phantom rain, seemed to echo in her memory. I'll think about it, she said finally, standing to leave. Take your time, he said. Just don't take too long. Opportunities have a way of vanishing. Angela picked up the folder, heavy as stone, and nodded. As she walked out, she glanced once more at the skyline through the glass. The city lights flickered faintly on the wet pavement below, reflections that looked a lot like second chances. Down in the empty lobby, Angela pressed the folder to her chest. Her uniform was still damp from mopping. Her shoes squeaked against the marble she'd cleaned for years. And yet, for the first time in her life, she felt like she wasn't just part of the background. She looked up at the silver Crestwood logo shining above the doors and whispered under her breath, Guess I just got promoted from cleaning floors to cleaning house. The elevator doors closed behind her, and somewhere, in the quiet hum of the building she'd kept spotless, destiny had just clocked in for its next shift. The elevator doors opened on the top floor, a floor Angela had only ever cleaned after hours, careful not to disturb anyone's desk. Now, her name was printed on one of the glass doors. Angela Brooks, Director of Facilities. She stood there a moment, fingers grazing the lettering as if touching proof that the world had actually shifted. The office smelled of lemon polish and faint cologne. A window stretched wall to wall, showing the whole skyline, sunrise bleeding gold between towers. For a woman used to basement storage rooms and supply closets, it felt like stepping onto another planet. Her first thought wasn't pride. It was disbelief. The new title came with a new rhythm. Meetings. Budgets. Reports. People who once walked past her now smiled. Thin, practiced smiles that never reached their eyes. The supervisors she used to answer to now called her Ms. Brooks. She tried to enjoy it, but something underneath the praise felt rehearsed. During her first week, Charles Devon checked in twice, warm but distant. Take your time, he'd said. Learn the ropes. The numbers will tell you everything. He was right. The numbers did speak, but what they said didn't make sense. Angela sat at her new desk one night, alone. Everyone else had gone home. The only light came from her computer screen, illuminating the rows of expenses in pale blue. Line after line, the same pattern appeared. Vendor, Marcellus Maintenance Company. Service, HVAC Diagnostics. Amount, $4,980. Different dates. Same signature. Same total. Just below the threshold that triggered a secondary approval. She scrolled further. The same vendor billed for fire inspections, roof repairs, plumbing, even glass polishing. Yet, she'd never seen a Marcellus technician in her building. Her pulse quickened. She opened another report, one from 3 months earlier, under a different name, Devon Consulting Group. At first she thought it was coincidence, until she saw the billing address. Same suite number. Same P.O. box. Her chest tightened. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling. The hum of the fluorescent lights filled the silence. Why would he promote me into this? She murmured aloud. Part of her wanted to believe it was an oversight. But her gut, the same instinct that made her turn around in that rainstorm, whispered otherwise. She began printing the invoices one by one, stacking them neatly on her desk. Each page felt heavier than the last. By midnight, the stack looked like a wall, a paper trail no one wanted seen. Angela wandered out into the hallway to clear her head. She passed the janitorial room, her old station. The smell hit her instantly. Bleach, floor wax, and metal. Her mop leaned against the wall exactly where she'd left it. For a moment, she rested her forehead against the doorframe. I used to think cleaning was simple, she whispered. Now I'm not sure what kind of dirt I'm supposed to wipe up. The next morning, she approached the accounting team. Morning, she greeted, holding the folder of invoices. Quick question. Have we actually seen any staff from Marcellus Maintenance? One of the analysts, a man in a navy vest, barely looked up. They're contracted through upper management. You don't need to worry about those. Right, she said slowly. Who signed off? He shrugged. Same as always. Devon. She walked away, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Charles Devon's signature was on every file. That afternoon, she found him in the boardroom, mid-call. He waved her in. Everything all right, Ms. Brooks. She hesitated, watching him, perfectly composed, the kind of calm that comes from either confidence or control. Yes, sir, she said finally. Just going over vendor records. There's some overlap. Thought you should know. He nodded once, too casually. Noted. Some accounts overlap by design. Keeps the system flexible. He smiled faintly. Trust the process, Angela. You've earned your place here. Don't let paperwork make you doubt that. The way he said it, smooth, final, sounded less like reassurance and more like a test. Back in her office, she stared out the window at the city below. The sunset burned orange across the glass towers, beautiful, distant, deceptive. For years she'd polished glass just like this, wiping away fingerprints without ever seeing the reflection staring back at her. Now she could see it clearly. Her own face. Her own unease. Her own silent vow. If I'm meant to keep this place clean, she whispered, then I'll start where the dirt's deepest. She turned off the lights, locked the door, and slid the first batch of files into her bag. That night, Angela walked home under a sky full of city haze. The streets were dry now. No storm, no thunder, just the quiet buzz of neon and traffic. But as she passed a storefront window, she caught her reflection again. The same woman. Different eyes. She didn't know what she was walking into, only that she'd stepped across an invisible line, from obedience to awareness. And awareness has a price. The gift she'd been given wasn't a reward. It was a doorway. And on the other side, something was waiting. The building was nearly silent. Security lights washed the corridors in cold blue, and the sound of Angela's heels echoed against polished marble. She should have been home hours ago, but the unease in her chest wouldn't let her sleep. So she came back, with coffee, curiosity, and a folder full of questions. Angela spread the files across the long conference table. Line items, vendor codes, dates, signatures, each one a thread that didn't quite match the pattern. She cross-checked invoices against security logs. No maintenance badges. No work order entries. No camera footage of the supposed technicians. She glanced at her reflection in the window. Tired eyes, strong shoulders. Her mother's voice seemed to echo in the quiet apartment. If you're gonna clean, clean right. Even if it means stirring up dust. Angela smiled faintly. Guess I don't get to retire easy, Mama. The following morning, she arranged an unscheduled inspection. If Marcellus Maintenance existed, someone would show up. Nobody did. By noon, she had confirmation. No contracts, no staff, no company, just a signature that linked back to one man. Charles Devon. Her stomach nodded. He'd trusted her, promoted her, called her a symbol of integrity. Had it all been camouflage? That night she returned to her office and stared at the skyline again. The city looked cleaner from up here. Too clean. Angela pulled out her phone, scrolling through her contacts until she found one she hadn't used in years. R. Lopez, investigative journalist. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Reporting him could cost her everything. The job, the respect, maybe her safety. But silence would cost her soul. She pressed call. Lopez, the voice answered. It's Angela Brooks, she said quietly. Pause. Then recognition. The janitor from Crestwood? Long time. Not a janitor anymore, she replied. Got a promotion. And I think I just found out why. A rustle of paper, a low whistle. Tell me everything. Angela looked out over the city one more time. The marble under her feet gleamed. Beautiful, expensive, and built on lies. This place, she said, looks spotless, but I can feel the dirt underneath. As she ended the call, thunder rolled somewhere distant, low and threatening. Rain began to patter against the glass. Angela smiled at the irony. The storm always comes back when the truth's about to break. She opened her drawer, touched the flash drive labeled proof, and whispered, Let's clean this right. A steady drizzle traced thin silver lines down the tower windows. Angela stood outside Charles Devon's office door, folder in hand, pulse thudding in her throat. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes she saw that anonymous note. Some dirt never comes clean. She knocked once. Come in, his voice answered. Charles sat behind his desk, a half-empty espresso cooling beside a laptop. He looked up, surprised. Ms. Brooks? Early as always. I need a minute, she said. Her tone carried something different, steel wrapped in calm. He gestured to a chair. Of course. Angela stayed standing. She placed the folder on the desk and slid it toward him. I found something. And before anyone tells me I'm confused, I made copies. He frowned, flipping through the pages. These are vendor invoices. They're fake, she said. Every one of them. The companies don't exist. And your signature's on half. Silence. Only the rain tapping the windows. Charles leaned back, expression unreadable. That's a serious accusation, Ms. Brooks. It's not an accusation if it's true. He exhaled slowly, folding his hands. You've been here 5 minutes in the grand scheme. You don't understand how corporate structures work. Maybe I don't, she cut in, but I know when something smells like bleach covering blood. The line landed hard. His eyes narrowed. Who else have you spoken to? She met his gaze. Does it matter? For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, he rubbed his temple. You could have come to me first. I did, she said. Last week. You told me to trust the process. This is me trusting it. She reached into her coat and pulled out the flash drive, setting it beside the folder. This holds every file, every timestamp, every account. I'm giving you one chance to do the right thing before someone else does it for you. She opened her drawer, touched the flash drive labeled proof, and whispered, Let's clean this right. A steady drizzle traced thin silver lines down the tower windows. Angela stood outside Charles Devon's office door, folder in hand, pulse thudding in her throat. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes she saw that anonymous note. Some dirt never comes clean. She knocked once. "Come in," his voice answered. Charles sat behind his desk, a half-empty espresso cooling beside a laptop. He looked up, surprised. "Ms. Brooks?" "Early as always." "I need a minute," she said. Her tone carried something different, steel-wrapped in calm. He gestured to a chair. "Of course." Angela stayed standing. She placed the folder on the desk and slid it toward him. "I found something. And before anyone tells me I'm confused, I made copies." He frowned, flipping through the pages. "These are vendor invoices." "They're fake," she said. "Every one of them. The companies don't exist. And your signature's on half." Silence. Only the rain tapping the windows. Charles leaned back, expression unreadable. "That's a serious accusation, Ms. Brooks." "It's not an accusation if it's true." He exhaled slowly, folding his hands. "You've been here 5 minutes in the grand scheme. You don't understand how corporate structures work." "Maybe I don't," she cut in, "but I know when something smells like bleach covering blood." The line landed hard. His eyes narrowed. "Who else have you spoken to?" She met his gaze. "Does it matter?" For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, he rubbed his temple. "You could have come to me first." "I did," she said. "Last week. You told me to trust the process." "This is me trusting it." She reached into her coat and pulled out the flash drive, setting it beside the folder. "This holds every file, every timestamp, every account. I'm giving you one chance to do the right thing before someone else does it for you." He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "You think this is simple? You think I planned any of this? I inherited a mess. I kept the system running because shutting it down would have buried the company." Angela's voice stayed even. "Then maybe it needs burying." He turned, eyes flashing. "You'll ruin everything." She stepped forward. "Everything's already ruined, Mr. Devon. I'm just holding up a mirror." The words hung between them, sharp, cold, final. Charles sagged against the window frame. For the first time, he looked smaller, less legend, more man. "I didn't create the shell firms," he said quietly, "but I signed what they put in front of me. I told myself it kept people employed. That's how corruption always sounds, reasonable." Angela studied him. "So what now?" He looked back at the folder, then at her. "What would you do if you were me?" "Tell the truth," she said, "even if it burns." He walked to his desk, staring at the flashing cursor on an empty email draft. Finally, he spoke. "Call the auditors. All of them. And the police." She blinked, not sure she'd heard right. He nodded once, as if convincing himself. "You said you wanted it clean. Let's clean it." She exhaled, a long, shaky breath of relief and disbelief. By afternoon, the building buzzed with quiet panic. Compliance officers arrived. Doors locked. Files coppered. Whispers rippled through hallways like gusts of wind before a storm. Angela stayed in her office, watching the rain streak down the glass. Her phone buzzed, a message from the journalist, Lopez. "Got your signal. Story's moving. Brace yourself." She typed back. "Do what you must. Truth first." Asterisk. As dusk settled, Charles appeared at her door. He looked older, humbled. "I told them you found it," he said. "You deserve credit." Angela shook her head. "I don't need credit. I need change." He nodded. "Then you'll have it." For a heartbeat, there was quiet understanding between them. Two people bound by the same storm, finally choosing honesty over image. When he left, Angela turned off a monitor. The reflection staring back from the darkened screen wasn't just the cleaner or the executive. It was both. She whispered to herself, "Truth's the hardest thing to polish, but it shines the longest." She picked up her coat and stepped into the hallway. the echo of her footsteps following her like the steady rhythm of resolve. Rain again. Not a storm this time, just a steady drizzle that made the city feel restless. Inside Crestwood Plaza, the air was heavier than usual. Emails vanished. Voicemails failed to record. People avoided eye contact. Angela Brooks felt it before she could name it. The building she'd worked in for years was turning on her. She arrived to find her office door slightly ajar. Her chair was turned. The file drawer she'd locked was open a few inches. Nothing looked stolen, but everything felt touched. She checked her flash drive. Still there, in the pocket of her blazer. "Good morning, Ms. Brooks," one assistant called, voice too bright. Angela nodded. "Morning." The hallway chatter stopped as she passed. At lunch, two supervisors huddled near the vending machines, trying to make herself a hero. "Heard she's working with the cops." She didn't confront them, just kept walking, tray balanced, face calm. Her grandmother used to say, "When the wind howls, keep sweeping. The dust can't stay up forever." That night, she stayed late to finish compliance reports. When she hit print, the computer froze. Then the screen went black. Jerome from IT checked the logs. "Weird," he muttered. Whole drive wiped remotely at 11:03 p.m. Angela looked at the clock. 11:04. Someone was inside the system while she was still sitting there. Can you recover it? Maybe. But whoever did this has admin clearance. Her stomach dropped. She left near midnight. The parking garage echoed with dripping water and her own footsteps. When she reached her car, the driver's side window was smashed. Glass glittered on the seat like crushed ice. A note on the dashboard, written in thick black marker. "Stop playing clean." Angela folded it once, pocketed it, and whispered, "I don't play." She drove home with the wind in her hair and the city's neon bleeding through the cracks. At 2 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. "Ms. Brooks," a low male voice said. "You don't have to go down with this ship. Take the payout, walk away. Nobody gets hurt." Who is this? A pause. Then, someone who still has a job because they know when to quit. The line clicked dead. Angela sat in the dark for a long moment, then started laughing softly, tired, not afraid. You think threats work on people who've mopped up blood from office fights and never said a word. She turned the phone face down and began drafting a report to HR. The truth was simple. Fear wasn't new to her. It just had nicer shoes now. Next morning, Charles Devon appeared at her door. He looked exhausted. "I heard about the car," he said. "Security's checking footage." Angela met his gaze. "Footage will be gone by noon." He didn't argue. "You could take leave. Let the auditors finish." She shook her head. "I'm not leaving this half clean. That's how messes come back." Charles studied her. "They're coming after me, too." "Then we stand together," she said. "Or we both go under." For the first time, he didn't look like a boss. He looked like an ally. By Friday, headlines started to ripple online. Crestwood CEO under internal audit. Whistleblower inside real estate giant. Phones rang non-stop. Investors panicked. Angela's inbox flooded with everything from threats to thank yous. Her favorite message came from an anonymous janitor at another company. "You made us believe we matter. Don't stop." She didn't delete that one. Late evening. Angela locked her office, stepped into the elevator, and pressed lobby. Halfway down, the car jolted, stopped between floors. Lights flickered. Her heart pounded. Then a voice crackled through the intercom. "Power glitch. Hang tight." It wasn't security's voice. She stared at the panel, every instinct screaming this wasn't random. The lights flickered again, then steadied. When the doors opened, two executives waited. "Ms. Brooks," one said, smiling too wide. "Board wants to see you tomorrow. 8 a.m. sharp." Angela nodded, expression unreadable. Tell them I'll bring the bleach." That night she stood outside Crestwood Plaza, watching the lights in the upper floors blink like warning signals. The building that once looked beautiful now loomed like a living thing protecting its secrets. She whispered into the rain, "If the dirt's fighting back, that means I'm getting close." Lightning flashed somewhere beyond the skyline. Angela smiled faintly. Angela sat across from 12 people in grey suits. The board of Crestwood Tower. They'd called her in for clarification, but the smile said interrogation. Charles Devon was there too, jaw tight, hands clasped. A senior board member adjusted his glasses. "Ms. Brooks, we've reviewed your claims. These files you provided, do you understand how much damage this could cause?" Angela met his gaze calmly. "Not as much as the damage already done." Another member leaned forward. "You're implying executive misconduct. That's a serious—" "I'm not implying anything," she cut in. "I'm showing you. Page 12, line 8. Vendor codes link straight to an offshore holding tied to Devon Consulting Group." The room went still. All eyes turned to him. "The records are real. The company's been bleeding money for years under my name." A ripple of shock. Someone whispered, "Jesus." He looked at Angela. "Let's clean this, publicly." Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Charles stood at the podium, rain streaking the windows behind him. Angela waded off to the side, her expression steady. "We failed our employees and our clients," Charles said. "We hid behind success while the foundation rotted." One person refused to look away. Ms. Angela Brooks found the truth. She reminded us what integrity means. Gasps, murmurs, clicking shutters. He stepped aside, gesturing for her to speak. Angela hesitated, then took the microphone. "I was hired to keep the floors clean. Turns out the dirt was upstairs. I didn't do this to bring anyone down. I did it so the people holding this building together could finally stand tall." Thunder rolled in the distance. For the first time, the applause wasn't polite, it was real. Within days, resignations poured in. Executives fled. Auditors swarmed the offices. The media called it the Crestwood Purge. Through it all, Angela kept working, answering emails, signing compliance reports, making sure every corner of the truth got light. Charles came to her one evening. "They're naming you interim COO." She blinked. "Me? You're stepping down." "I should have done it sooner," he said. "This place needs someone who knows how to scrub deeper than surface shine." He extended his hand. She took it. "Congratulations, Ms. Brooks. You're officially the cleaner who cleaned the company." The lobby was unrecognizable, bright, open, warm. The gold Crestwood logo was gone. In its place, Crestlight Enterprises. Tagline beneath it, "Integrity starts from the ground up." Angela walked through the hall, greeting staff who now smiled with genuine respect. Former janitors had been promoted to operations teams. Front desk clerks sat in leadership training classes. Everyone called her Ms. Brooks, but the tone was different now. Honor, not habit. Charles arrived one afternoon, dressed simply, carrying no briefcase. He smiled. "I like what you've done with the place." Angela nodded. "Had to open the windows. Let the light in." He chuckled. "You ever think you'd be running this building?" She glanced up at the shimmering glass panels. "I never even thought I'd be seen in it." They shared a quiet moment. No guilt, no pride. Just mutual understanding. He turned to leave. "You've got this, Angela." "No," she said softly. "We've got this." Angela launched the Lantern Fund, a program offering scholarships and training for custodial and service workers to advance within the company. Local news picked up the story. From janitor to CEO, how Angela Brooks transformed corporate culture. At home, her phone buzzed non-stop, calls from single mothers, night shift cleaners, people saying, "You made us believe we matter." She'd read each message and whisper, "You always did." Crestlight held its reopening gala in the same hall where she'd once mopped floors. Lights, music, laughter, the kind she'd only watched from the sidelines before. During her speech, Angela looked out at the crowd. Executives, janitors, receptionists, all standing together. This company was built on hard work, she said, but it was saved by honesty. If we can keep those two things, we'll never fall again. The applause shook the room. Evening. The city skyline glows gold under the fading sun. Angela stands alone outside Crestlight Tower, a cup of coffee in hand. The building's glass facade mirrors a face, older, calmer, stronger. A young janitor exits behind her, pushing a mop bucket. "Evening, Ms. Brooks," he says shyly. "You heading out?" She smiles. "In a bit. You're new." "Second week. Still learning the floors." She nods. "Take your time. Every shine matters." He grins and disappears into the elevator. Angela looks up at the Crestlight logo glowing against the night sky. The reflection dances in her eyes. Her phone rings. It's Lopez, the journalist. "Still getting letters about your story," Lopez says. "You've become a symbol." Angela laughs softly. "Symbols don't mop up leaks." "Maybe," Lopez says, "but they remind the rest of us to pick up the broom." Angela looks back at the tower, the light flickering across her face. Then maybe that's enough. She walks toward the glass doors, pauses, and turns off the lobby lights one by one until only the Crestlight logo remains glowing, like a single lantern in the dark. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness lights a path bigger than we can see. The night I helped a man in the rain, I didn't save him. I just reminded us both that everyone's worth saving, no matter which floor they're on. She steps out into the night. The glass doors close behind her, reflecting the city's endless light.